Let's take a breath together. So this morning we're wrapping up our month-long look at everyday wonder as finances. And I changed the talk title because the talk title that came in the CSL resource bank just made no sense to me. I kept trying to make it make sense and it didn't. So this morning we're going to talk about infinite abundance is your birthright. What does birthright mean? Well, it depends on how we use the word. And so for this morning, the way we're using birthright is to understand that it is your right simply because you breathe, simply because you exist. And the reality is, abundance is more than your birthright. It is the essence of your being. It is simply what you are in form. Source, the substance that we're created out of, is infinite. It just gives to itself and never runs out. It's never depleted by its giving. Why is that important for us to recognize? Because the same is true about you. Even though you may sometimes feel depleted in this human experience, your essence is never depleted. You could give of that inner essence 100% every minute of every day and never run out. Never. Because the way circulation works in the spiritual realm is exactly that. It's a circulation. There's really, we talk in this human realm about giving and receiving, right? And most of us have pictures of what that would look like. And a lot of us fall into the inappropriate understanding of tithing, that if I tithe 10%, I get back 15%. Anybody else ever guilty of that? I'm going to give so I get. That's not how it works. And here's why. That consciousness is based in lack. It's based in bargaining. It's based in duality. Because it's like we're making a deal with something outside of ourselves. Right? Monty Hall spirituality. Let me date myself. I just went to an episode of Let's Make a Deal. I'll manifest what's behind door number 3. Right? And if we understand divine circulation, then we begin to live our abundance with a freedom, right? To where we don't have to worry about what we're going to get. We just get to live in the joy of giving. And when we stay there long enough, it becomes the joy of being. And it doesn't even feel like giving anymore. It's simply living our lives in the flow. Now, how do we know that our nature is abundant? Well, look at how you experience life. But look at how you really experience life, right? Because everything we do produces an abundant manifestation. And so if you are, let's go to the gospel of Facebook for just a moment. If you're scrolling through your Facebook feed and you spot a post and you engage with that post with a tremendous energy of anger and judgment, it really doesn't matter whether you post a response or not. Notice how simply engaging with it, with that energy, produces an abundance of anger and angst in you. Notice that. Our nature is abundant. Whatever we hold in our awareness, whatever belief we're operating from, we create exactly that. We're 9 days away from midterm elections? What are you experiencing an abundance of? Because the commercials are not creating your abundance. You are. We could all sit in a room and watch the same political commercials and have 10 different experiences. 100 people, 100 different experiences. The commercial is not creating your experience. You are. And you're creating it by what you're telling yourself about the commercial, about the media, about the people in the commercial, about your projection of what's going to happen if it all plays out the way the commercial wants it. Right? And you experience an abundance of what's in your own consciousness. And if you're like many of us here in human form, when you experience that abundance and it happens to be an abundance of muck, we look for someone to blame. And then we experience an abundance of blaming and guilt and shaming. Those are all kinks in our hoses of abundant good. Right? And it's really simple to straighten out the hose. Our shadow side is the greatest opportunity we have. Did you know that? That your shadow is the great informer of what is available for you to shift in consciousness. Do you understand that in physics, if you have a light directly above an object, and I mean directly in alignment with it, there's no shadow. Why? Because shadows are created by blocked light. So if your shadow side is showing up, what that's telling you is that your consciousness is out of alignment. And it's creating a shadow. So it's real simple. Bring your thoughts, bring your beliefs into alignment with principle. Not somebody else's idea. There is a book, which is actually the owner's manual for drug addicts, called Narcotics Anonymous. And it's like the owner's manual for your vehicle. If you happen to be an addict, you might want to get this book because it tells you how to operate you. And one of the things that it says is that we have the ability to rationalize the most outrageous sorts of nonsense. And we do. It also says that to be truly open-minded means to entertain the idea that everything I know is subject to revision, especially what I know about the truth. Right? How many of us justify and argue for our limitations behind the idea of, well, it's true. Is it? Is it really? It may be factually accurate. That don't make it true. That just makes it factually accurate. If we understand truth as spiritual principle, as unchanging spiritual truth, that's different. Many of us, self-included, conveniently, and I still slip into it when it's convenient, to misunderstand what Ernest Holmes taught about manifestation, that I can have anything I want. Incorrect. Ernest Holmes even addresses that. He says that we do not get what we want. We get what we have the consciousness to create. Those are often very different. I can throw temper tantrums about what I want. I can say all day long that I want abundance manifested in my bank account, but if I'm doing that from the idea of lack, I'm going to get an abundance of lack, because that's what I have the consciousness of, is lack. If I want my way, rather than to live inclusively and understand your way, I'm going to get an abundance of chaos and disagreement, because that's what I'm standing in. He also said, and this is by far my favorite Ernest Holmes quote, because many of us justify and deeply argue for our limitations about, well, I'm just creating my own reality. I'm creating my reality. Ernest Holmes said this: many of us think our thoughts create reality. This has never been true. Thinking the world was flat never made the world flat. It simply flattened our experience of it. We use reality. We are reality. In oneness, what we teach is there's only one reality. What our process does in this individualized form is create our experience of reality. We don't change reality. When we align ourselves, when we pay attention to the shadow and take responsibility for the thoughts that are out of alignment and bring ourselves into alignment with principle, reality changes us. I'm going to close with this, because regardless of how annoying some of us find it, I find a tremendous spiritual dance with Facebook. And I saw a meme the other day that I have really taken to heart, that if the universe is not fixing the problem, perhaps the problem is fixing you. Right? It was like, I don't want to see that. But it's true. And so if you're experiencing a challenge with abundance as finances, abundance as housing, abundance as anything, take a moment, pause, check in with factual accuracy. What are you telling yourself? Is that in fact what's manifesting? And if not, get to the thought underneath that is showing up as you're possibly somewhere on planet Earth in this human form, a belief that you're unaware of that you have. Perhaps. Because we all have them. We all have blind spots. And the only way we get to grow spiritually is to challenge ourselves to look at our blind spots, love ourselves for having them. It simply means, whether you've been accused of this lately or not, it just means you're normal. It means you're a normal human being, having a normal human experience, having a normal human blind spot that we can scientifically prove in epigenetics is passed on from one generation to the next. Congratulations with all of your efforts not to be, you have arrived at normal. The good news is we can shift. because you are the only thinker in your mind. And you get to choose. You get to choose to never look beyond the surface. You get to choose to continue to manifest exactly what you're manifesting. And you get to choose to do it all completely different. And that which is living as us, this is the part that is so amazing to me, doesn't give a rat's rear end what you choose. Doesn't care. It's never going to withdraw itself. It's never going to give you less. It's never going to be less of you. It's never going to stand in judgment of you for what you choose. It just celebrates that you choose and acts upon your choice to make it so. Let's take this into prayer. One infinite, ever-present allness, creating out of itself to experience itself, to expand its experience of itself in, through, and as the form of its creation. Knowing this to be true, I know that I am that. I know that everyone within the sound of my voice and even beyond is that. I know that the shoes I'm wearing is that. One, always one. Inseparable from its creation. Giving of itself to itself without hesitation, without measurement, just giving. And so that is the abundance that I claim for all of life. I claim an awareness. I claim an experience. I claim an intentional living in the truth of abundance. That all of our hoses are flushed out and unkinked. That we live gloriously in the flow of the abundance that we are. So grateful. So grateful to know in every cell of my being that the word spoken is the word fulfilled. And so I can let go and simply step into an experience of that. And so I do. And I invite you, if any of these words have resonated with you, if any of it resonates within your being as true and accurate, that you join me as we say together, and so it is.